Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're unpacking a story that genuinely sounds like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood screenplay. We're talking about a brilliant double life full of some seriously mind-bending historical contrasts. Let's just dive right into it. So, what on earth does 1940s Hollywood glamour have to do with the Wi-Fi connection you're probably using to stream this very explainer right now? On the surface, absolutely nothing. But beneath that surface is one of the most incredible mysteries of the 20th century. We're talking about a woman celebrated globally as the most beautiful woman in the world who was simultaneously harboring a massive secret. Here we have Hedy Lamarr at the absolute height of her MGM Hollywood stardom. But, before she was a household name starring opposite absolute legends like Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy, and Jimmy Stewart, she was born Hedwig Kiesler in Vienna, Austria, back in 1914. And her early life was incredibly difficult. She actually had to flee an abusive marriage to a wealthy Austrian arms merchant who collaborated closely with the Nazi regime. She made a daring escape to London, met movie mogul Louis B. Mayer, and he signed her to MGM. He changed her name to Hedy Lamarr and aggressively marketed her as this global symbol of glamorous sophistication. She was a massive cultural icon. But how did she actually feel about all of that? Well, her true feelings about her public persona were perfectly captured in this legendary remark. She said, "Any girl can be glamorous. All you have to do is stand still and look stupid." She delivered that line with a real punch, and honestly, it tells you everything you need to know. She absolutely despised the shallow, superficial nature of studio stardom. She wasn't just a pretty face on a movie poster. Her mind was constantly racing, constantly analyzing, and constantly building. Which brings us to her secret life. Section 1. The Secret Inventing Table. You see, while other Hollywood stars were out partying at clubs after grueling days on set, Lamarr retreated. She went straight back to her home trailer where she had set up a fully functional inventing table. She was a self-taught mathematical and mechanical inventor, and this was her true passion. She was always tinkering. She built a modified stoplight system to improve traffic flow. She even designed an effervescent tablet meant to turn regular water into carbonated soda for soldiers deployed during the war. Now sure, these were quirky, early inventions, but they demonstrated a profound, natural mechanical aptitude. People started to notice that her brain just worked differently. In fact, her mechanical aptitude caught the attention of none other than the famous aviation tycoon Howard Hughes. Hughes realized exactly how brilliant she was and literally put his own team of aeronautical engineers at her complete disposal. So what did she do? She analyzed the biological wing designs of the fastest birds and fish in nature. Then she synthesized those findings to design a completely new, highly aerodynamic wing shape for Hughes planes, specifically to maximize their speed. Just think about that. She was solving complex aerodynamic problems in between taking direction on movie sets. Section 2. Unjammable Torpedoes and the WW2 Breakthrough. By 1940, the world was at war. German U-boats were ruthlessly sinking civilian passenger ships in the Atlantic, and Lamarr was desperate to contribute directly to the Allied war effort. Because of her first marriage to that Austrian arms merchant, she possessed a very rare insider understanding of military arms and torpedo technology. She knew exactly what the major weakness of Allied weaponry was. So let me pose this technical problem to you. How do you stop a radio-controlled torpedo from being jammed by the enemy? It was a massive issue. If the enemy detected the single radio frequency being used to guide a torpedo, they could simply broadcast a powerful static signal on that exact same frequency. The static would overwhelm the guidance system and knock the torpedo entirely off course. In a traditional system, relying on a single static frequency makes a signal incredibly easy to jam. But Lamarr conceived this brilliant Trojan horse-style solution: frequency hopping spread spectrum. Instead of a static line, her signal dynamically hops from channel 1 to channel 5 to channel 3. It is constantly moving, which makes predicting it, and therefore jamming it, mathematically impossible for the enemy. To actually bring this dynamic hopping to life, she teamed up with an avant-garde composer named George Antheil. This right here is the actual, official 1942 US patent diagram for their frequency hopping secret communication system. Now, I know it looks incredibly complex, but the core concept was brilliantly simple and heavily inspired by Antheil's background in music. Which brings us to the number 88. Why 88? Well, because there are 88 keys on a piano. Lamarr and Antheil designed the transmitter and the receiver being the torpedo, to rapidly hop together across a synchronized sequence of exactly 88 different frequencies. If the enemy tried to jam one specific frequency, it didn't even matter, because the signal had already moved on to the next one in the sequence. But here's the real puzzle.
How do you keep a ship and a torpedo perfectly synchronized while rapidly changing frequencies 88 times? They solved it using a player-piano mechanism. Basically, they used a strip of perforated paper tape that physically advanced inside both the ship's transmitter and the torpedo's receiver at the exact same time. This mechanical piano roll ensured that both machines hopped to the correct frequency simultaneously. Honestly, it was an absolute stroke of genius.
Section 3. Rejection and Eventual Vindication.
So, Lamarr and Anvale were officially granted their patent in August of 1942. Lamarr immediately offered this groundbreaking technology to the U.S. Navy, entirely free of charge, just to help win the war. But the military establishment completely scoffed at the idea of putting a piano player mechanism inside a torpedo. They were incredibly dismissive. They simply could not look past her Hollywood image, and they really struggled to take a glamorous actress seriously as an engineer. As a result, this world-changing patent was classified, shelved, and eventually allowed to expire without Hedy Lamarr making a single penny from it.
But her shelved idea definitely didn't stay shelved forever. Let's trace this out. In the 1940s, it was rejected as too eccentric, but by the 1960s, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the U.S. Navy quietly adopted the concept, using updated electronic systems rather than paper tape. Fast forward to the 1990s, the consumer telecom industry opens up, and cellular networks begin using frequency hopping to prevent crosstalk on mobile lines. And finally, in the 2000s and beyond, Lamarr's concept officially serves as the core intellectual foundation for the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS protocols that run our entire modern world today.
Yet for decades, she received zero public credit. It wasn't until 1997, just 3 years before she passed away, that the Electronic Frontier Foundation finally honored her with their Pioneer Award. When they called to give the 82-year-old icon the news that she was finally being recognized for inventing the foundation of modern wireless communication, her response was brilliantly punchy. She simply replied, "Well, it's about time."
So I want to leave you with this final thought today. If a heavily marketed Hollywood starlet, dismissed by society as just a pretty face, could sit in her trailer between movie takes and invent the very foundation of the Wi-Fi you are using right now, what hidden genius is being overlooked today? Who else are we dismissing because they don't fit our preconceived molds? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the surface, keep looking for those hidden structures, and I'll see you on the next one.